So now that I've talked a bit about what the specific notification pattern is, let me motivate it in the actual context that matters, which, surprise, surprise, is your next programming assignment. So we're going to talk about fair semaphores. I've already talked about fair semaphores. This is really just a recap of what we covered earlier when we talked about semaphore semantics for Java semaphores. So the bottom line is that if you implement a fair semaphore, then when threads call acquire, they obtain a permit or permits or whatever they're trying to do in, first out order, because that's fair, right? That's a queue, right? If you have people in a queue, you want to give priority to the one that's been there the longest. Now, what does it mean to be FIFO? So this is sort of an implementation detail. It's not so much which thread called acquire first, it's which thread in the implementation of acquire gets to a certain point in the execution sequence where it needs to wait. And that, to really understand that, we'd have to look deep in the bowels of the implementation of fair semaphores and the abstract queued synchronizer framework in Java and so on. So that you don't have to get carried away with the details. But at some point, there's a decision made to put something to sleep because the permit's not available. And that's the point where things are queued up in FIFO order. You don't really have to worry about that. The point is that there's some internal point where you get queued and the FIFO-ness is respected after that queuing point is hit. So as I said, one thread could invoke acquire before another, but it could reach the ordering point after the other, just because of the non-determinism of concurrency. So the specific notification pattern, as we will see in just a minute, gives you an effective way to implement fair semaphore semantics. And that's why you should read this paper and why you should look at listing 3, which gives you the best model for doing your implementation. Okay, as I said, this is a really short discussion. We'll get on to the fun stuff in a second.